Keir was a con man, a smooth talker with the charm of a used car salesman. He preyed on the vulnerable, the elderly especially, like a fox in a henhouse. He promised them the world: security, comfort, warmth. Lies, all lies. Like promising a cat a lifetime supply of fish. Keir's latest scheme was particularly cruel, and as believable as a politician's promise. He targeted pensioners, their winter fuel allowance in his sights, like a kid eyeing the last cookie in the jar. He convinced them to sign over their allowances to his energy-saving scheme, which was about as real as a unicorn in a snowstorm. A scheme that was as real as a unicorn in a snowstorm. Or a diet that lets you eat cake. The pensioners, trusting souls that they were, believed him. They signed the papers, handed over their allowances, like giving candy to a baby, their only source of warmth during the biting winter months. They were left out in the cold, literally. Winter arrived with a vengeance, its icy fingers gripping the city in a relentless hold. Snow fell steadily, blanketing the city in a thick, pristine layer of white. Streets, once bustling with life, now lay silent under the weight of winter's fury. The wind howled through the streets, a hungry wolf at the door, tearing through the trees and sending shivers down the spines of those who dared to venture outside. For the pensioners, the cold was unbearable, a cruel reminder of their vulnerability. They huddled in their homes, seeking refuge from the biting chill. Their homes, once havens of warmth and comfort, had turned into icy cages. Frost crept up the windows, and the air inside was as cold as the world outside. Mrs. Higgins, her bones aching with cold, wrapped herself in blankets, but it was never enough. The chill seeped through, a constant, gnawing presence. Mr. Patel, his breath fogging the air, huddled near his electric heater. It was useless without the funds to run it, a cruel joke in the face of their dire situation. The reality of Keir's betrayal hit them hard. He had promised warmth and security, but delivered only cold and despair. He had robbed them of their comfort, their health, their dignity. Anger simmered within them, a slow-burning fire that grew with each passing day. It grew with each passing day, fueled by the biting cold and Keir's callous disregard. They were not just cold, they were furious. These pensioners, often overlooked and dismissed as frail and helpless, decided to fight back. They would not be silenced by the cold or by Keir's indifference. They gathered together, pooling their resources and their resolve. They would teach Keir a lesson he wouldn't soon forget, a lesson born of their suffering and their strength. They met in secret, a group of determined pensioners who had been wronged and were now seeking justice in their own unique way. Their eyes burning with quiet fury, each one of them had a story of betrayal and loss. The community center became their war room, a place where they could plan and strategize without arousing suspicion. Their plan? Audacious, daring, brilliant. They would kidnap Keir, the man who had swindled them, and hold him hostage. Their demand was simple: return their hard-earned money. Mrs. Higgins, her mind sharp as ever, devised the strategy. She had always been the brains of the group, her experience and wisdom guiding them. They would lure Keir with the promise of a new client, a wealthy widow ripe for the picking. A trap, of course, set with meticulous care. Mr. Patel, a gentle giant of a man, volunteered his van. It was old but reliable, perfect for their needs. They would grab Keir, bundle him into the back, and take him to their chosen location. Every detail had been planned to perfection. A place so cold, so isolated, it would make Keir realize the true meaning of winter's bite. The pensioners were ready, their resolve unshakable, their plan set in motion. Section 4. Bundled into the deep freeze. The plan unfolded flawlessly, just as they had meticulously designed it. Keir, ever the greedy fool, fell for the bait without a second thought. His eyes gleamed with the promise of easy money. He arrived at the meeting point, a smug grin on his face, confident that he was about to make a quick fortune. The pensioners, their faces betraying nothing, ushered him into the van. The door slammed shut with a resounding thud. The trap was sprung, and Keir was caught. Keir struggled, but it was no use. The van's interior was cramped, and his movements were restricted. Mr. Patel, his strength belying his age, held him down with surprising ease. Keir's attempts to break free were futile. They drove through the city, weaving through the streets, finally arriving at their destination, a rundown Chinese takeaway on the outskirts of town. The van came to a halt. The back door of the takeaway led to a large walk-in freezer. The cold air hit Keir like a wall as they pushed him inside. Keir, his eyes widening with fear, realized the pensioners' plan. He had underestimated them, and now he was paying the price. He was going to freeze, just like the pensioners he had so carelessly robbed. The cold seeped into his bones, and despair set in as he shivered uncontrollably. Section 5. A chilling demand. They threw him inside the freezer. The door slammed shut, the metallic clang echoing in the cold, dark space. Keir shivered, his breath forming icy clouds in the air. This wasn't the luxurious, warm retirement he had envisioned for himself. "We want our money back!" Mrs. Higgins' voice, amplified by the confines of the freezer, sent shivers down Keir's spine. "Every last penny. And a new bingo hall!" Keir stammered, his teeth chattering. He was used to bullying the vulnerable, not the other way around. "Oh, we can!" Mr. Patel's voice boomed. "And we want free tea and biscuits for life! We already have!" The pensioners, now feeling victorious, decide to celebrate their success. They throw a party in the community center, complete with a karaoke machine and a buffet of their favorite foods. Laughter and music fill the air as Mrs. Higgins belts out an old classic, her voice surprisingly strong and vibrant. Mr. Patel dances with abandon, his moves belying his age. Cut to Keir, still shivering in the freezer. The muffled sounds of their celebration seep through the thick door, each burst of laughter and cheer adding to his misery. He huddles in the corner, his breath forming small clouds, a stark contrast to the warm, jubilant atmosphere outside. The camera pans back to the party. Plates clink, glasses clatter, and the pensioners toast to their newfound freedom. They sing, they dance, and they revel in their victory over the man who thought he could take advantage of them. Keir's isolation is complete. The jubilant sounds of the party serve as a bitter reminder of his downfall. The community he once looked down upon is now stronger and more united than ever, leaving him to contemplate his choices in the cold, dark freezer. Fade out to the sound of Mrs. Higgins leading a rousing rendition of "We Are the Champions." As the party winds down, the jubilant atmosphere begins to settle into a warm, contented hum. The pensioners, still buzzing from their victory, gather around a phone call from the police. The camera focuses on Mrs. Higgins as she explains the situation, her voice confident and unwavering. The police, initially taken aback by the pensioners' bold actions, soon find themselves amused and impressed by their audacity. They agree to let Keir stew in the freezer for a bit longer before coming to arrest him, a decision that brings a fresh wave of cheers and laughter from the pensioners. Cut to Keir, still shivering in the freezer, his breath now coming in desperate, frosty puffs. The camera lingers on his face, capturing the realization of his impending fate. The muffled sound of the pensioners' renewed celebration filters through the thick door, each burst of laughter and cheer driving home the reality of his situation. Back at the community center, the pensioners toast to their ultimate victory, their glasses clinking in unison. They know they've won, not just against Keir, but for their dignity and respect. The camera pans out, capturing the scene of unity and triumph, a stark contrast to Keir's cold, lonely confinement. The final shot zooms in on Mr. Patel, who raises his glass and says, "To justice and to us." The pensioners echo his toast, their voices filled with pride and solidarity. The scene fades out to the sound of their laughter and the triumphant strains of "We Are the Champions," a fitting end to their hard-fought battle. Fade to black.